2,000 feet beneath a granite mountain in Colorado, there is a city built to survive the end of the world. It has its own power plant, its own water reservoirs, its own air supply. 15 multi-story buildings stand inside a hollowed-out cavern in the rock, and not one of them touches the floor directly. Instead, each building rests on more than 1,000 giant steel springs, so that when the nuclear blast comes and the whole mountain heaves, the buildings can rock gently in place instead of shattering. And sealing it all off from the outside world are 2 blast doors, each weighing 25 tons, 3 feet of solid steel, built to shrug off a 30 megaton nuclear explosion. This is not a movie set. This is a real place, and it has been quietly watching the skies above North America every hour of every day for over half a century. Today, we are going underground, into the most secure, most secretive, most jaw-dropping bunkers ever built. Government fortresses hidden under luxury hotels, bomb shelters built to save whole nations, and the private doomsday palaces of the ultra-rich. We will start with that mountain in Colorado because to this day, it remains one of the most extraordinary structures humanity has ever made, and one detail about how it survives a nuclear strike will stay with you. The place is called the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, and for decades it was the beating heart of America's defense against nuclear attack. To build it, engineers detonated hundreds of tons of explosives and carved nearly 700,000 tons of granite out of the mountain, hollowing out a 5-acre chamber deep inside solid rock. Then, inside that vast cavern, they constructed a self-contained city. The approach alone tells you everything about how seriously this place takes survival. You don't just walk in, you enter through a tunnel bored straight through the mountain, and that tunnel has a deliberate bend in it. That curve is not a mistake. It is a weapon. If a nuclear blast went off outside, the shock wave would rush into the tunnel and then blow straight out the far side through the bend, channeled away from the actual entrance, so the force never slams directly into the doors. And those doors are the stuff of legend. 2 of them, back to back, each 25 tons, 3 feet thick, and yet so perfectly balanced that despite their colossal weight, they can be swung shut by hand and sealed in well under a minute. Once they close, the interior is completely cut off, its air supply sealed away from the poisoned world outside. But the single most ingenious feature is the one you'd never think of, and it's the detail I promised would stick with you. How do you protect a building not from the blast itself, but from the violent shaking of the entire mountain when a warhead strikes? A direct nuclear hit nearby wouldn't just generate heat and pressure, it would send a savage shockwave rippling through the very bedrock, enough to flatten any structure rigidly bolted to the floor. The engineers' solution was beautiful in its simplicity. They didn't bolt the buildings down at all. Instead, they mounted all 15 of them on top of more than 1,300 enormous steel springs, each one weighing around half a ton. The entire inner city literally floats on springs. So when the ground convulses, the buildings are free to sway and bob. They can shift as much as a foot in any direction, absorbing the shock like a car's suspension swallowing a pothole, instead of cracking apart. Imagine standing inside, feeling the whole world ride out an earthquake as a gentle rocking. It is one of the most elegant pieces of survival engineering ever devised.
And the question it leaves hanging is the obvious one. In all these decades, did they ever come terrifyingly close to needing it? The answer is yes. And the story is chilling. Cheyenne Mountain's entire purpose was to give America its earliest possible warning of incoming missiles, using satellites in orbit that could spot the heat plume of a launch within seconds. On a normal day, the systems inside processed thousands upon thousands of messages an hour, watching everything that moved above the continent. Then, in the early 1980s, the screens inside the mountain suddenly lit up with the unthinkable, a full-scale Soviet missile attack. Hundreds of warheads inbound, Senior officials were woken in the dead of night. The machinery of nuclear retaliation began, for a few breathless moments, to turn. And then someone realized something was wrong. The attack was too perfect. The numbers didn't behave like a real launch.
The cause turned out to be almost absurdly small. A single, faulty computer chip, worth less than $1, had failed, and was generating phantom missiles that didn't exist. The world had edged toward catastrophe over a defective component the size of a fingernail. The mountain had done its job of detection, but the incident revealed just how thin the line was, and how the most fearsome fortress on Earth was still at the mercy of one tiny, broken part. Cheyenne Mountain may be the most famous, but it is far from the only secret fortress built to keep a government alive through Armageddon. And the next one is so secret that, to this day, much of what happens inside remains classified. Tucked into a mountain near the border of Pennsylvania and Maryland sits a complex so central to American survival plans that it earned a nickname: the Underground Pentagon. Officially, it is a relocation site, a place where military and government leadership could keep functioning if Washington itself were destroyed. It is a genuine subterranean military base, with its own roads, its own reservoirs, freestanding buildings deep inside the rock, everything needed to run a war from beneath a mountain. While Cheyenne Mountain watched the skies, this place was designed to be the hidden command post where the chain of command could continue when everything above ground had failed. And unlike Cheyenne, which the government openly acknowledges and even once staged a public groundbreaking for, this site has always lived in the shadows, its inner workings deliberately kept out of public view. It is a reminder that for every secret bunker we know about, there are others whose true capabilities we can still only guess at.
But here's where the story takes a turn from the obviously military into something far stranger, because not every doomsday bunker hides under a remote mountain. One of the most audacious of them all spent more than 30 years hiding in plain sight, directly beneath the feet of unsuspecting holidaymakers at a glamorous luxury resort. In the Green Mountains of West Virginia stands the Greenbrier, an elegant, sprawling hotel that has hosted presidents and the wealthy elite for generations. Guests sipped cocktails, played golf, and danced in its ballrooms. And the entire time, just beneath them, sealed behind a hidden blast door, lay a vast secret bunker built for one staggering purpose: to shelter the entire United States Congress in the event of nuclear war. Every single member of the House and the Senate had a place reserved underground. The facility had dormitories with hundreds of bunks, a power plant, a water purification system, a medical clinic, and even a broadcast studio and a chamber large enough for the whole Congress to convene. A government in waiting, frozen and ready, beneath a hotel. What makes the Greenbrier story so delicious is the sheer audacity of the deception. The bunker wasn't off in some separate wing roped away from view. Parts of it were woven right into the hotel itself, in rooms that guests used and walked past every day, never suspecting a thing. There was a large exhibition hall, used for conventions and trade shows, that visitors strolled through completely unaware. Its walls were secretly hardened, and one entire side was a gigantic concealed blast door, so big and so cleverly disguised that people leaned against it without a clue. A handful of government workers, posing as ordinary technicians for a fake television repair company, quietly maintained the bunker for decades, hiding in plain sight among the resort staff. For over 30 years, the secret held. Congress could have been spirited out of Washington and hidden under a holiday hotel, and almost no one knew. The illusion only collapsed in the early 1990s, when a newspaper reporter pieced the story together and published it. The instant the secret was out, the bunker was useless, and it was promptly decommissioned. Today, in a twist nobody planned, you can actually buy a ticket and tour the very place that was meant to be one of the nation's most closely guarded secrets. So far, every fortress we've explored was built to save the powerful few: the generals, the lawmakers, the leadership. But one country looked at the nuclear threat and made a radically different decision. It would try to save everyone. And the result is perhaps the most astonishing civil defense achievement on the planet:
That country is Switzerland. And what the Swiss did is almost hard to believe. By law, passed back in the 1960s, the nation committed itself to providing a protected shelter space for every single one of its citizens. Literally 100% of the population. To this day, Switzerland has enough fortified bunker space between private and public shelters to shelter its entire population underground, with room to spare. Across the country, countless homes and apartment buildings were built with reinforced basements designed to double as fallout shelters, complete with thick concrete walls and heavy airtight blast doors. It became a normal, almost mundane feature of Swiss life. An ordinary family home, with an extraordinary armored bunker door tucked away downstairs. While other nations built a handful of secret sanctuaries for the elite, Switzerland quietly engineered survival into the very foundations of its houses, for everyone. But the Swiss commitment to protecting everyone produced something even more spectacular than reinforced basements, and it doubles as a perfect example of how even brilliant engineering can stumble. To shelter huge numbers of city dwellers, Swiss engineers came up with an idea of genius. Build enormous shelters that, in peacetime, serve as everyday motorway tunnels. One of the most famous sits beneath the city of Lucerne. On any normal day, it is simply a road tunnel with cars streaming through it. But hidden in its design was a second life. In the event of nuclear war, the plan was to seal off the tunnel at both ends with gigantic blast doors and convert it, along with a multi-story cavern built alongside it, into a colossal shelter meant to protect around 20,000 people. And these doors were monsters. Each one a curved slab of concrete weighing about 350 tons, shaped to withstand the immense pressure of a nuclear blast. It was, on paper, the largest civilian nuclear shelter in the world. An entire town's worth of people tucked safely inside a mountain highway. And then they actually tested it, and reality came crashing in. When the authorities ran a full drill to seal the giant complex, the result was almost comic in its failure. Those magnificent 350-ton doors were so massive and so unwieldy that closing them properly took not minutes, but the better part of a day. Far too long to be of any use in a real nuclear emergency, where the shelter would need to seal in a hurry. On top of that, organizers realized that actually moving 20,000 panicked people inside, assigning them spots, and feeding them from kitchens that could barely cope was a logistical nightmare. The grand vision simply did not work at the intended scale. And so, in a quiet admission of reality, the plan was dramatically downsized. The shelter's official capacity slashed to a small fraction of the original dream. It stands as a fascinating lesson, hidden inside all this concrete and steel, that building the fortress is only half the battle. Making it actually work when the worst happens is a different challenge entirely. Up to now, every great bunker we've seen was built by a government, for a nation or its leaders. But in recent years, a new and very different kind of doomsday fortress has been rising, built not for countries, but for individuals wealthy enough to buy their own personal apocalypse insurance. Welcome to the world of the billionaire bunker, where survival is a luxury product. The most jaw-dropping of these takes an old, genuine Cold War military bunker and transforms it into something out of a fantasy. From the outside, an owner can live in a beautiful home on the surface, but should disaster strike, they descend underground and seal themselves behind a blast door into a sprawling subterranean palace built from the same ultra-dense concrete used in nuclear power plants and designed to keep them in total comfort and complete self-sufficiency for up to a decade. We are not talking about cramped bunks and tinned rations. These places boast swimming pools, cinemas, spas, wine cellars, and even underground gardens where real plants grow under artificial skylights that simulate a full day's cycle of sunrises and sunsets, so residents need never feel they are buried alive. The security on these private fortresses sounds like something from a spy film, and it pushes the very idea of a guarded door to its limit. To get inside the most advanced of them, you don't turn a key or punch in a code. You pass through an airlocked decontamination chamber set between two blast doors, the first of which only opens after a scanner has confirmed your identity in 3 separate ways at once, reading your face, your iris, and the print of your palm. Vehicles drive down a hidden ramp that, once closed, leaves the entrance almost invisible from the surface. Inside, there are secure rooms designed so that the business of a fortune can continue uninterrupted, even as catastrophe unfolds above. These are not really shelters in the old sense at all. They are self-contained luxury worlds, engineered so that the people who can afford them never have to sacrifice a single comfort, even at the literal end of the world. The price of such peace of mind runs into the tens of millions, a doomsday for which only the very richest hold a ticket. Perhaps the most poetic of all these private havens takes the ultimate symbol of nuclear destruction and turns it completely on its head. Across parts of the American heartland sit the abandoned silos that once housed enormous intercontinental nuclear missiles, the very weapons these bunkers were built to hide from. These silos were sunk deep into the earth and engineered to survive a nearby nuclear strike so that their own missile could launch in retaliation. And now, one enterprising developer has bought one of these decommissioned silos and converted it into a tower of luxury apartments plunging deep underground. Think about the strange irony of that. A shaft built to deliver the apocalypse to others has been refitted to help a fortunate few survive it. Residents share amenities like a pool and a cinema and live in fully appointed homes, all stacked vertically inside a hole in the ground, originally designed around a weapon of mass destruction. The instrument of the end of the world, repurposed into a refuge from it. There is something both clever and deeply unsettling in that transformation. So, what do we make of all these astonishing places? The floating city under the mountain, the bunker beneath the hotel, the nation that armored its basements, the silo reborn as a sanctuary. On one level, they are monuments to human ingenuity, some of the most impressive feats of engineering we have ever attempted, each one a marvel of springs and steel and concrete poured against the unthinkable. But look a little closer, and they are something else, too. Every single one of these fortresses is, at its heart, a confession of fear. Physical proof of a time when humanity built entire hidden worlds underground because it genuinely believed it might need to flee the one above. And here is the detail that lingers longest. Almost none of them were ever used for the catastrophe they were built to survive. The blast doors stayed open. The bunks stayed empty. The springs never had to catch a falling world. These colossal monuments to the apocalypse are, in the end, monuments to an apocalypse that never came. And somewhere out there right now, sealed in the dark and quietly maintained, the newest of these doors are still waiting, just in case the world should ever need them.